Hello, and thank you for joining me at Spooky Reviews. I'm your hostess, the Ghostess, and every October I watch at least one horror movie I've never seen every single day. And for my very first podcast, I've decided to review all the horror movies I watched this month in under 13 minutes. I will try to avoid spoilers, but no guarantees. So here's every horror movie I watched this month in under 13 minutes. Let's start the clock now! October 1st, Little Evil, starring Adam Scott and Evangeline Lilly. It was straight to Netflix, and it was a cute little horror comedy. I remember it not being as funny as I wished it'd been, but it was about, like, if Adam Scott was the stepfather to the kid from The Omen, and it was cute enough. I also watched Clown, which is an Eli Roth-produced horror movie about a guy who finds an old clown suit, puts it on, and he becomes a killer clown that needs to eat children in order to de-clown himself. It was pretty creepy. I remember really liking this for what it was. October 2nd, I watched Bye Bye Man. It's a PG-13 horror movie that came out in January, and boy, was it really stupid. It tries to be like Sinister and Oculus combined, or Insidious Oculus combined, like something, but it tries to do mind fucks, but it's just not smart enough to pull it off. So October 3rd, I watched Sadako versus Kayako. It is the girl from The Ring versus the woman from The Grudge. And it's sort of like a creepy woman with long black hair off. It has two of its own plots kind of going side by side, and they don't really mingle super well, but it's got a good sense of humor, and I enjoyed it. October 4th, I watched Grabbers, which is an Irish movie about monsters that attacked this Irish island, and you have to stay drunk to survive. It was very funny, and I highly recommend it. I also watched Belladonna of Sadness, which is this bizarre 1970s Japanese musical trippy animation, trigger warning for rape. It's also fairly pornographic, not safe for work, but it is beautiful. So if you like creepy animation, trippy animation, this is definitely up your alley. October 5th, I watched 31. So this is a Rob Zombie movie. It's got everything you want in a Rob Zombie movie. It's got rednecks, it's got cussing, it's got gratuitous nudity, it's got violence, it's got some offensive content. It's like redneck Tarantino. If you like that, then you're going to love this. October 6th, I watched both of the 13 Ghost movies, the 1960s one and the 2000s one. The 1960s one is the dumbest. It's so dumb. This family just makes you want to yell at the screen. This is the family that invented stupid white idiots and inheriting haunted houses. The 2000s one is actually way better. I really like the decor of the house. The dynamic of the family is better, and they put a lot of detailed thought into these ghosts. If you check out the DVD extras, there's a bunch of detailed information about the ghosts, and it's honestly better than the plot of the movie. October 7th, I watched Come Out and Play, which is like Children of the Corn, only instead of people going to a place in Nebraska that's weird, it's people going to like an island off of the coast of Mexico, I want to say. That's weird. I can't remember the location. Maybe they were in South America, but anyway, it's Murderous Children. October 8th, I watched Green Room, which is a punk rock band books themselves at a Nazi venue, and they have to kill their way out of a group of Nazis who are not too pleased with this punk rock band who doesn't like Nazis. So it was very gore realistic in that they were not great at killing each other, and I enjoyed that. October 9th, Cult of Chucky. So I really liking what they're doing with the new Child's Play movies. Brad Dourif and his daughter Fiona Dourif is back. And they're in a mental hospital this time, so it's Chucky in a mental hospital, and he's making multiple Chuckies, and it's super fun. October 10th, I watched Disappointments Room, and disappointment is in the title for a reason. This movie is horribly edited. It was clearly not well pieced together. I think it had a better idea in there somewhere, but it's just such a nothing of a movie. It's such a disappointment, too, because the house had a really good design, and I wish they could have done more with it. October 11th, I watched Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. This is clearly low budget horror movie. It's about a bed that eats people causes people to dream on it, and then it dissolves them. There's a scene where this guy dissolves his hands, and then he has skeleton hands for a while, and it's pretty great. I highly recommend it just for Cheeseball. October 12th, I watched a Korean film called The Wailing, and it's got a really good atmosphere, really good build-up. Wasn't pleased with the ending. It kind of had a weird tone. There was a bit of a twist and then a twist back. I really liked where it was going, but it just didn't like get it for me in the end. October 13th, I watched a couple of movies. I went to see Happy Death Day in theaters, which is basically Groundhog's Day, but a horror film. Girl keeps getting killed and has to solve her own death. It was definitely an enjoyable movie. You got what you wanted out of it, except it didn't have Shawty, It's Your Birthday in it, which is so disappointing. I also watched the last two movies in the Saw franchise, which I never really got through before. Saw 6 is basically Jigsaw versus the insurance companies, and it's a very heavy-handed in its Jigsaw message, and the traps were the least believable. Saw 7 it was a really mean spirit. The final chapter, I just didn't really enjoy what it had to say. It wasn't fun to watch. You just watched like characters you liked get killed in a very mean-spirited way. Holidays, October 14th. It's an anthology movie that I watched. I remember really liking Easter was interesting. I liked Mother's Day. I liked Valentine's Day. I liked New Year's. Christmas was okay. I remember hating Halloween was really stupid. Father's Day was really good. So it was a mixed bag. I also watched Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. If you've never seen it, it's about using Stonehenge to make enchanted Halloween masks that dissolve people's faces into bugs. I highly recommend it. It is so stupid, but it's a cult classic for a reason. October 15th, I watched Final Destination 5. It is basically everything you expect in a Final Destination movie. It doesn't really give you anything new. There's one interesting idea where it kind of comes full circle and turns out it's a prequel, not a sequel. But other than that, it's got nothing new to the table. I also watched XX, which is an anthology movie written by 4 female filmmakers and directed by 4 female filmmakers, and they're all from a woman's perspective. And I only really remember liking one of them that really stands out. I can't remember what most of the plots are, so that kind of says something about its lasting power. October 16th, Disturbing Behavior. It's basically Stepford Wives, but for teenagers in this teenage town. It's super 90s, early 2000s. And I loved it for its cheese factor. I remember seeing it advertised a lot when I was younger, but I was too young to see it. And I also watched Blood Feast, which is a classic 1960s. It was one of the first super gory horror movies, and for being a pioneer, it's something, but it's basically just bloody death after bloody death after bloody death, and it's a little cheesy and doesn't really go anywhere. October 17th, I watched a French horror movie called Raw. It's about a vegetarian-raised girl who goes to a veterinarian school and has to eat meat as part of an initiation ceremony, and it unleashes this inner hunger she'd never had before, and I really liked the concept and the execution. October 18th, I watched They Look Like People. It's one of those, is it craziness or is it real plot lines, and I really liked the way that they executed it. It was really good, and it really kind of touched your heart and made you feel for the characters. October 19th, I watched Creep, which is a found footage movie starring Mark Duplass from The League. I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch, but it was also like nothing too special. It had a lot of moments of why is this guy filming right now, but I appreciated it for what it is. October 20th, I watched Phantasm, which I'd never seen before. It's about this alternate dimension using corpses as slaves run by the Tall Man, who I always thought the character was named Angus Scrimm, but the actor is named Angus Scrimm. Isn't that a perfect character name, though? October 21st, I watched Flatliners, which I'd never knew that it was based on an original. When somebody said that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out. It stars Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Billy Baldwin, Oliver Platt, Kevin Bacon, as they go into the afterlife afterlife to try to figure out what the afterlife is like, and they bring back with them their own personal hells. It's really fascinating. October 22nd, I finally watched Audition, classic Japanese gore, torture, horror that I'd never seen because I knew it was so gory. I'd lied about seeing it, I know, to people at times just because I didn't want to have to watch it. But it's definitely worth checking out. It's beautifully done. I also, on October 23rd, watched Human Centipede, which again, I'd lied about seeing because it was too gory. But this one, I should have just not seen because it was really bad. I do not recommend Human Centipede. It's much grosser and it's just dumb. It's just not as well acted or well thought out. October 24th, I watched Prom Night. Everything is alright, Prom Night. Which is, I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it's set in the 70s, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's got disco dancing in it. So if you want any of those things in a horror movie, see Prom Night. October 25th, I watched the Boris Karloff 1930s The Mummy, which is much closer to the Brendan Fraser version than I would have thought. It's about Imhotep trying to raise his reincarnated bride from the dead in order to live with him forever, but it's much sweeter, it's much sadder, and it's much quieter, but it's still a pretty good movie. October 26th, I watched Slumber Party Massacre. It's about a guy who kills a slumber party of girls basketball team with some power tools, but it's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's not as dumb as it looks. October 27th, I watched God Told Me To, which is so bizarre. It's about these like cult-like murders in the name of God, and this guy looking to the past and virgin births, and you would just have to see it. I can't even get into the entire bizarreness of this plot. October 28th, I went to see Jigsaw in theaters, and it does not feel like a Saw movie. It feels like somebody trying to make a Saw movie, but with like a big budget, but didn't have anybody involved from Saw other than Tobin Bell. It's a little bit of like it feels like a copycat, and so the whole time I never really believed I was watching a Saw film. October 29th, I watched Jeepers Creepers, which is another movie where people are like, you've never seen Jeepers Creepers? Why did you want to make me watch this movie? This movie is not very good. It's this demon that needs to eat people in order to regenerate its powers. I don't recommend it. It was really dumbly written, but had very good performances in it for what it was. October 30th, I watched REC, which is the original Spain horror movie that Quarantine is a remake of, but this one has much better pacing, so if you liked Quarantine, I recommend watching REC because I think it's better. October 31st, Ghost Watch. I've seen this one before, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. BBC put it on, and it has real BBC News personalities on it. It seems like it's just a regular Halloween special interview where they're looking and investigating into a haunted house and doing a paranormal interview, and then creepy things start happening in the audience and to the studio and to the people filming, and it's actually a really creepy found footage movie back before found footage was really popular. It was in the 90s, and it was pretty controversial at the time because it did trick some people into thinking it was real. I also watched Blackcoat's Daughter. I'm not usually a big Emma Roberts fan, and I'm usually not that into movies where the devil is the bad guy, but this was definitely a creepy demonic possession movie that took place in a Catholic boarding school during winter break when some girls get left behind. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. I found it on Amazon Prime, and you can too. So that's all of the horror movies I watched in 2017 October. Join me next time when I discuss one of my favorite reality TV shows, Scream Queens, where you compete for the ultimate grand prize, a bit part in a late franchise Saw movie. Thanks for listening.